When you live in the now and then make every decision and every choice today
that'll put you towards
to push you towards that direction.
What do you call yourself in Africa? Do you call yourself black? No. And I'd see you guys over here calling yourself black, and I was just losing my shit.
It's not censored, right? So
it's uncensored. Yeah,
uncensored.
I guess the bitch is
starts
getting pumped by the stud. Yeah.
Join us on Tuesday at 7:30 on Facebook
At ThoughtXchange,
where nothing is safe.
Where nothing is safe.
Where nothing is safe.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Steve Van Diest. Welcome to the TXC Show. This is my boy.
Hey, it's Cameron Barkey here. What's up?
We got a special guest in the house today. Today we got Manny Schmidt in the house. Want to talk and tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do? You got
awesome.
Kind of a cool background.
Sure. I, as Steve said, Manny Schmidt with Link Management is our sports agency. So I'm a certified NHLPA agent, work on the NHL side, but our core business is representing and managing professional athletes, right from as they're coming up through the process as prospects through to pro level, through to post-career, facilitating post-career stuff. So that's sort of our core business, and have a lot of fun doing it.
You've been doing this for quite some time now. How long have you been in business now?
Well, the agency side I started in 2008, 2009, but have been working in the industry specific since about the mid-90s, where my background comes in working with professional athletes, speakers, but specifically on the athlete side, athletes who have just retired and were transitioning into their next career, their next life, right? And what I recognized by doing that is just how little thought, preparation, and effort had gone into that phase. You're in that zone, and you're in my career. Everything is great. You show up, you do what you need to do. And, like I say to our athletes now, the one guarantee, we don't offer a lot of guarantees, but the one guarantee I give you is that the sport will end.
Yeah.
One day or another, it'll end.
It's like almost like being
That's a deep conversation.
It's like almost being institutionalized. You come out of that and you're like, I don't know what to do anymore.
Well, it's a complete transition, right? Like, it's just so different. Like, the athletes, no matter what, at the highest level, you try to minimize all the distractions around you so that everything is taken care of you. You mean your meals prepared for you, your flights and your schedule and your laundry and all of that stuff is, and all of a sudden it ends, and what you knew prior to that was the guys in the room. That's my family, and that's all changed. You don't have access to that, that group, that camaraderie and that lifestyle anymore, and so you got to figure it out. And what we found is that just so little thought had gone into that, which really bothered me. That there has to be a better way to work with, we say work with an athlete on a pre, during, and post-career basis that utilizes sport to create success in life, not to use life to create success in sport. And that's really where the brainchild of our agency came from, is let's figure out a way to do this a little differently that absolutely maximizes an athlete's potential within their career, but also puts an equal emphasis on how do you utilize that sport to create post-sport success, whatever that might look like. And it'll be different for every athlete.
I've known a few athletes that basically have come where their career ended and they're lost.
Absolutely.
Like, it's almost like a what's my purpose now?
Yeah,
kind of thing.
That makes sense. I come from a pretty decent sports background, and I got a few friends who are actually in the NBA right now. But those guys who are in the NBA, not even the people that I know, but just everyone and pretty much in every sports capacity, since the age of 2 years old, all the way to their 38, 39, 40, depends how old, but mid-40s, let's say, even in like NFL football players, like quarterbacks, they go to 42, 45, whatever, right?
Yep.
Sometimes. I mean, it's pretty rare, but some hockey players in their early 40s. But you're going on 40, like pretty much 40 years of your life of totally everyone catering to you for your entire life. Like actually though, no, it's like you don't have to deal with shit. Like
Nothing.
shit. You don't have to do anything. And then it's like, okay, that's done. And then you're just like, so okay, how do I cook rice? Is 4 minutes? Or like much water do I? Like I don't know. So it's just that's a very important aspect. I feel
your whole identity in what we found is that athletes' identity becomes the sport that they play, and when that sport ends, now all of a sudden, what's your identity?
You're a shell.
Like what do you and you take it even to an extreme where the pro guys later in their careers where they get married, they have families. Well, just think of the dynamic that exists within that family where the athlete is out of the house, gone for 10 months of the year, and the spouse is running things and makes the decisions at home, and then the athlete all of a sudden pops back into the environment
and is always there.
And how do you figure out that new normal? Like, who owns the remote control? Right? It's just,
actually though, no, that's totally fair.
Right? It's what show are we going to watch? What are we going to have for supper? Well, I don't like it. All of that becomes totally new.
Crazy.
And so there's a whole process of preparing an athlete for what that might look like, and how do you create equitable success during that phase of your life? Because it's still a big phase. Like you just said, if it's at 40,
you got another 40 years.
You got another 40
50 years.
Exactly. So what is that going to look like, and how do you create equal success in that phase as you you woke up every morning to great success in the first phase? Well, how do you do it in the next phase?
That's really cool. You go that deep into it with who has the remote control, because like those are the tough conversations you're gonna have to have with those guys. And I'm sure you've had. I honestly didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I just more so think about guys not having their identity, because you grow up your entire life being a boxer and you can't box anymore. It's like, well, who am I? I don't really have any outs. Like, no offense to any of these professional athletes, but like outside of the skill set that they have on the ice, that's not really transferable to quote unquote the real world. Like, okay, cool, you can score 3 hat tricks a game, but like, what else are you?
Right on.
What what else can we do? Essentially, right? Like, I could definitely see the point of that being their entire identity. And once that gets away, do you see a lot of guys become depressed at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And that was one of the things that really bothered me actually. Is when I say almost to a T, almost every athlete struggled with it, almost to a catastrophic point. Well, that's what I meant. Like, there's some athletes who, were suicidal, were heavily depressed, because when it's like a party, you just died, right?
Yeah.
It's your time, and in many cases, and in most cases, the retirements happen out of necessity, not by choice. Right, so that's the other part of it is
they don't want to quit.
You don't want to quit,
the body
but you
says,
have to,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the game has passed you by, or your spot in the locker room just isn't there anymore, right? And so that's one thing, is the whole idea of I'm no longer wanted, or I no longer have a place. Now I got to move. So there's so many different things. So it's trying to prepare for that well in advance is so critical.
Is that crazy having those conversations with 19-year-old kids?
Oh, absolutely. It's weird, right? Like, the youngest guys that we would work with would be, 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
And to bring up the word retirement for a 14 or 15-year-old, it doesn't even make sense. But that is the reality. Is sooner or later you might retire from this game at 19.
You could, right? Yeah.
Or you might be a Jaromir Jagr and play till you probably get wheeled off the ice in his wheelchair before he's done. But
is he still on?
He's still playing over in Europe. Yeah.
Oh, in Europe. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, is he still in the league? I was like, Jagr's he's got to be close to 50.
He's up there.
He's up there. So, yeah, it just having those conversations. They're different with the young guys than they are with the older guys, but you've got to contextualize those conversations in a way that lets them understand that what we're trying to do is help you succeed in sport, but also utilize the lessons of sport, creating leadership and creating, we have what we call our letter jersey leadership program, Well, that's all about creating captains, not just in sport, but in life, right? And so how do we do that? And helping the players understand, the athletes understand that, what the lessons can be applicable and can be transferable to a corporate environment, to whatever, right? And so we have a lot of those conversations, and those are really the ones that get me most excited, actually.
So you seem like you're doing like a mentorship program.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah,
No,
it kind of feels like it's
interesting.
really. I like it.
2 months ago, someone asked me what I did. What do you do? And I don't even know why I responded the way I did, but my response was, I'm a mentor to young men, and I do that through the facets of a sports agency.
Yeah, that's
what
cool.
And honestly, that's where my passion is growing young athletes, mature athletes, but trying to share my life experiences in a way that helps them formulate and formalize their own experiences.
That's pretty profound, actually. That's really cool. So like, what would be a, so you find these guys at 14, 15 years old. How do you go about doing that? Like, what's the protocol with that?
Like, do they look for you? You find them? Like, how do you scout them out?
Yeah,
How does that
no,
work?
it's time in rinks and watching young guys play, and we get a lot of word of mouth referrals from we call our player families and our clients. We're not, purposefully, we're not a volume-based agency. We're not a big agency. We're a specialized agency. And so we look for the right type of client. We'll identify a client based on skill, a player based on skill and potential. But we will then dig into that to identify character, mindset, mental toughness, leadership abilities, what's the family situation like, all of those things. And we'll actually have a rating system, and we will look at how well do they fit into our organization.
Oh, so you're vetting them.
Oh, as much as they vet us, we vet them. For sure.
Wow, that's cool. So you want to have all of your clients sort of in the same umbrella of like, this is our brand.
Correct.
That's,
very much so.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So then that way all of your guys who work with your agency gel together. But I'm sure there's other reasons. You kind of want to keep it holistic and, once again, I said inside of your brand. But that's really interesting. I never thought of it like that.
Not only that, but then the upper level guys also come to you for specific guys. And they say, hey, we're looking for, a good character guy that can, centerman or whatever, this and that. Like, who do you got on your roster?
Yeah, and again, I think there's definitely two sides of that, just like you said, Steve. One is we want players and families that are link families, that are us, right? And one of the things I'll always ask our advisors when they have a recommendation of a player that they identified is, does that family fit with our families? Because we do a lot of stuff as an agency where our players come together with their families, and so they spend time together. And I want to make sure that if we add into that mix, it's a good add. And that our existing families are benefiting by the families and players that are coming in, and the new player family that's coming in is benefiting it. The other side of that, which you just mentioned, is it's really, really important for us as an agency that when a team goes, well, who's their agent? Oh, they're with Link Management. They know right away that there is a certain type, going back to your brand. There is a brand to our clients that they know what they get. They know what we do with our clients. They know the type of clients that we work with. And so it provides a little bit of a different approach to negotiations. But I think it's long-term, it's really beneficial, right? The teams know what to expect when they get a link player.
I could see that. I could see there's always there's something to be said over, well, once again, you're talking about volume. So I'm thinking quality over quantity.
Correct.
I'm also thinking there's that guy who's he's the best at this, amazing at this, awesome at this. Just a terror in the locker room, though. You know what I'm saying? Just like
Yeah,
it's just
you could
like,
probably name some names.
yeah, you know, there's those. You mentioned the word character, right? And I was always taught that character. You judge a man's character by what he does when nobody's watching, right? And also another one is you judge a man's character on how he responds when he gets angry.
Yeah,
those are the two ways you can really judge a man's character. Is what I was taught anyway. I don't know if it's right, but
that is absolutely 100% correct.
yeah. So I'm just saying, like, there's those guys that are good at everything, but they do a really shit show job when nobody's watching. And if you ever get them mad, watch out, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah. So those are probably. I'm just saying, those are probably the type of clients that, like, hey, they're good on paper and all these things. They could score you goals. They could, whatever the case may be, whatever sport. But if they don't have those other, what would you call them? Intangibles?
Yeah,
Qualities, intangibles.
traits, right?
Traits, yeah.
We call them check boxes. The clients have to
official check box.
literally they got to check off the boxes for us. Otherwise, our model doesn't work. It really comes down to that. We can't have the success we want to have if we're not staying true to the clients that we want to have.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's our success is based on building people, building athletes, not managing contracts. It's building character, right?
I like that.
And if we do that right, the contract stuff will take care of itself, right? I mean, we know we can negotiate. We know we have the connections. We know, but that's not what we're based about. We're
Like the
based
system's already in place. Now you're worried about, okay, the system's in place. Now we have to actually produce the products.
Correct.
Right. And so, like, I see, like, there's certain things that I've noticed that when I was had you kind of around you, you would send guys to specific training camps, specific types of people to learn from. You'd run like little group sessions, like team building sessions. I noticed those kind of things. How young and how old is your spectrum?
Our youngest would be 14.
So Bantam, is that?
Yeah.
And
So
is it strictly hockey, or you have other sports as well?
we have what we call our team sport division, hockey being our primary, and that's where our core business is. And then we have what we call our iSport division, which is our individual athlete division, and that would specialize in higher profile individual sports, golf, tennis, extreme sport, and it's a very different market, very different way of managing those athletes. When you go from a team-based athlete to an individual sport athlete, but that's, and then also the way you program that, right? The team-based athletes, it's all based on, like in hockey, it's all based on contracts, and that's how the revenue's generated in the business. But with an individual sport athlete, the majority of that's going to be generated via endorsement deals, that kind of stuff, right? It's not as much contract based or winnings based. You're really trying to maximize the brand of the athlete.
The brand of the guy,
athlete.
the marketing behind
Absolutely. So you got to have a machine behind that, right? And then you got to be, just like anything else on the brand marketing side, you got to be consistent. You got to, and frankly, one of the things we talk about with our athletes, if you really are a brand, you're a brand 24/7. You can't decide that I'm this brand on the ice or on the tennis court, and then I'm going to be someone else at the theater or at the grocery store.
Doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that, right? And that sometimes is a real hard lesson for an athlete to grab. That you got to be on 24/7, right?
Yeah, you got to be congruent with your brand, because if you're who's an example? Everyone loved him, Ryan Smith.
Yeah.
Everyone loved Ryan Smith. You see Ryan Smith at the grocery store and he's a total asshole, you'd be like, wait a second. He's like, I'm saying if,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying he ever was. I'm
No,
just saying, like,
yeah.
that's like everyone loves him,
sure.
and he's like the nice guy and everything, and But
And then you see him, it's like a completely different
You know,
dude. You're
like,
just like,
yeah,
because then it
is
turns
he
into a
faking
lie.
this the whole
It's like,
time?
yeah, it becomes a lie, and I'm like, that would be pretty hard to.
as a little kid, seeing that, even like seeing like
Oh, yeah.
the person you look up to, totally like
Even as the actual character, I think it would be pretty hard. Like actors do that, right? That's
Yeah.
like an actor who basically on the screen is one character, and then you see him in real life.
Correct.
It's a completely different other person, right?
Yeah.
Like you think you know him because you see him in all these films. Same thing. You think you just know this hockey player because he acts a certain way, but you see him in real life.
Yeah.
You're just like.
Hey, that could go the other way though. You could be a total asshole on the ice, and then
be the nicest
and then
guy.
you're the nicest guy in real life, and people would actually start loving you. Like you play the heel, right?
Yeah.
People love you. I don't know.
Hey, but I mean, there are.
I'm just saying.
But I would say there are a lot of athletes who have to be a certain way in their arena,
Yeah.
right, to survive. Right?
Legit, yeah.
But how are they in the locker room? How are they, outside of their arena? Not necessarily in the public domain, but how are they? That to me is right because
The brand as well. That
Exactly,
adds to it. Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
because you got to be, and a guy that I have unlimited respect for, a friend of mine, Jason Strudwick, right? Struddy was one of the toughest guys on the ice. I mean, he dropped his mitts left and right when he played. That was his role. He was never a fighter before, and he's never a fighter after. But he realized that he had to change his persona to have a career, to be successful.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that he would flick a person
In real life. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's just the way he is. Like the funniest guy, he'd go to the end of the earth for anybody if they asked him. You'd never think that this is, a brawler.
Well, that actually makes for a good brawler though, because he actually doesn't let his emotions get in the way.
Well,
it's
there you
literally
go.
just a job. He's literally so it's all technique. It's like a boxer
Yeah.
almost. So he goes in there not necessarily trying to
Although I'm not sure how much you can say that there's no emotion when you have like a Bob Probert coming down on you. There's
Yeah. There's a little bit of emotion.
There's a little
there.
bit of emotion.
Well,
there.
that's more like, oh, I'm gonna die emotion. More than like holy jeez, Bob Robert's coming up.
Right. It's but yeah, it's that you're right. Yeah. That's the difference when you can separate that though.
Yeah. I like Jason Trudwick. He's actually a good Edmontonian here too.
Oh, he's huge.
Yeah,
Huge
but
community
he's
guy.
also going. He's another one of the guys going through things and comes out of the NHL and has to figure out now what to do.
It was crazy. You see a lot of guys fall from grace. I'm just saying in general, and I'm just thinking was it a large? You probably touch on this part too of the post stuff, but I'm sure you get into the whole financial side of things with all these athletes. But you look at Allen Iverson, for example. And you're like, how in the frick does a guy like that go bankrupt? Or like, didn't happen to Mike Tyson? Mike Tyson went completely belly up, didn't he?
Yeah.
At one point, and you're just like, how do you go belly up? You're
Those
Mike
guys
fucking Tyson.
those guys are spending millions of dollars a year, bro. Like millions. Like
I know, just no one teaches them these things, though, right?
And then people take advantage of them, right?
And that's partly what when we go back to why I got into this. If you look at the stats, like you say Iverson, and you use that as an anomaly in the process. Well, it's not. Like if you look at NFL guys, it's close to the 80% are bankrupt within 5 years of retirement.
Within 5? Like they're bankrupt while they're still playing?
No, within 5 years of
after
retiring.
yeah,
Within 5 years of retiring.
Yeah.
The percentage rate
cash flow is
just crazy. Baseball and basketball is a little lower. Hockey's a little lower. But NFL is really high.
Serious?
Like crazy high.
That happens to a lot of people though. Like even because they don't teach how to allow your money to work for you.
Yeah.
And so like how to put the money aside so that way this money is now going to start to work.
Yeah.
And put this money to work. Nobody does that.
Yeah,
Everyone
but
just goes to work and creates a cash flow and lives off that cash flow. But as soon as they stop generating money, there's no other forms of income.
Yeah, but guys like us don't need to really think about that.
What
Like
do you mean?
no. We have to think about it more.
More.
Like they just think about, okay, I wake up, okay, I got training 6 a.m. Okay, cool, do this, do that, do this. Oh, I have $1 million paycheck. It's like they don't like they're fine with money. It's like
They don't think about it.
What's the NFL minimum? 500?
Yeah, NFL the minimum is I'm not sure where
3, 5?
Yeah, but a
It's
lot of
all
the linebackers and all those guys, they're making those low end contracts, are they not?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It could be anybody, the long snap. Like it literally could be anybody. You're third
Correct.
string, whatever. But it's a minimum,
Yeah.
right? But even on the minimum, you're making $30,000 a month, and it's like, I sit on a bench, make $30,000. I don't need to think about anything. This is sweet. I made it. I can buy my friends this. I can do that. Guys like us who aren't making those type of paychecks, playing sports all day long and all year long, we have to think about finances a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
That's just the way. That's the way I'm kind
For
of
sure.
viewing it.
Well,
a
and
little bit.
it's at a different level, right? Like I remember a conversation, friend of mine, the late Zarly Zalapski, still say the best name in hockey, but grew up with Czar, and when he was with Pittsburgh, he came back and we were talking about his season and stuff. And one of the things he said that it was his weirdest thing for him, because at that time, they, instead of direct deposit, which everybody has now,
There's actually
right?
checks?
You actually get your bi-weekly pay, like your check, right?
Pay stub, yeah, that's sweet.
And so, and
Gotta go to the bank every year.
he's sitting in the locker room with Mario Lemieux and Paul Coffey, and like, here's your check for these last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And
love
like,
that.
And they're like, literally, you got, my check, $18,000, and Lemieux's check like $1 million, and like, it's just crazy. But Czar was 19 years old at the time, right? So all of a sudden you're thrown into this life where you've been striving for it all along, but now all of a sudden the reality isn't. But those are things you've never prepared for. You haven't trained for that.
And it doesn't make any sense too. Like
No.
you're looking at it and go like, I
I
spent
just
like
been playing hockey. It's like,
I spent my whole life. I have never seen this much, and I'm like, now it's in a piece of paper for 2 weeks worth of pay. I'm just like,
yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably why, like, that I could see that happening to them. I see it probably, is it less in hockey? Because, like, there might be a little bit more financial education in hockey. That's like, as the kids growing up in hockey, because that's not a inexpensive sport to play. Like, you have to be fairly affluent as a family
It's
to play
because
hockey.
it's a different demographic, right?
From what I understand too, I don't know if, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I heard that once the NHLPA came into place, that they also started teaching people
Yeah,
how to be more financially
they've
fiscal with your money.
and the PAs in all the leagues have taken and have attempted to take massive steps forward in that. Hockey is a little bit different. If you just look at the demographic of that sport, for example, you look in football, right? I mean, the majority of those players are coming from tough upbringings, like ghetto-ish upbringings, right?
Yeah.
Hard African American, ghetto type neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That was their upbringing, and so
Where there's a lot of drugs and crime, and
Totally.
they're just
And
people just trying to survive.
getting week to week paychecks doesn't exist for a lot of those families. Like
Yeah.
they just, where hockey has become such, and unfortunately has become such an affluent sport. Like in order to play hockey, parents are spending
tens of thousands.
Oh,
Camps and
the new academies and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, these academies, you can range anywhere from 23,000 up to $50,000 a year, right? And so now you're putting them into these academies year over year over year, like
Hundreds of thousands of
It just
dollars.
eliminates an entire demographic that there's just no way they can.
Well, not even that. Like, yeah, I remember like I never had to go through that as much as the kids nowadays. The kids nowadays are so much more talented, and the competition level is so much harder. Only because these camps are so much better. They're so much refined. They're so refined, and now you have to be in a camp if you want to compete. You have to go to the camp, or else the next year you show up and everybody is like 10 or 13 times better. And I'm just like, yo, man, I just played with you last year, and over the summer you just.
Camps.
Yeah.
And the camps are specialized. It's like skating camp, and all you do is learn how to skate.
Yeah.
And then it's handling camp or whatever,
Yeah.
like.
Now, the economy is driving a lot of this. It's unfortunate, but the economy and pure family pressure drives so much of this.
What do you mean, the economy?
Because the economy of the game, there's money to be had, and so it creates this whole infrastructure on the back end of specialized coaches who want a piece of that economy.
Yeah.
Right? And so you get camp after camp, and now all of a sudden, well, the Smiths are going, we better get to this camp too if they're going. And so now it just
Now the
compounds
Jones
itself, right?
Jones have to go because they're
Absolutely.
competing with the Smiths. Last thing they want to do is have Smith make the team when Jones could have made the team. I know that Jones is better than.
It's just crazy, right? And so it's just this compounding effect that happens that
I can totally see that happening. Where
Oh.
it's just
I grew up in St. Albert. It's like
the
it's
poor
exactly
kids
like
get
that.
no, for sure.
The poor kids get thrown in the mix in that, and they're like, "I just
100%.
want to play."
Exactly. and so one of the things that we do, like when we map our athletes out, 1, 3, 5 years in advance, we map out their entire plan. And we put our guys in specialized camps, but we end up saving our families money by simply saying, no, you don't need to go to ski. Your skating is really good right now. What you need to be doing is you need to be doing this piece. So you're not trying to, where families I think often are trying to do everything, we try to cut it back and we say, what is key to your plan during this phase right now to get us to where we need you to go?
Work on the weaknesses instead of the strengths.
Absolutely, right?
Is hockey a game of because I know that basketball is like this. You really only have to be good at one thing in basketball. Like for example, this is an outlier, but the game sort of evolved into this sort of situation. But it's a Steph Curry, for example. He is one of the best, maybe arguably all time, of shooting the basketball at range. But he's not dunking the ball. He's not. You know what I'm saying? He's not really. He drives a little bit, but he's not like. Another example of someone who was really good at one thing was Shaquille O'Neal.
Correct.
Right? He's just give the ball in the paint and he's dunking on people, ripping nets down, bodying everybody. It's like you're good at one thing. You're a slasher. You're this. You're a great pass. Like Steve Nash. Decent this, decent that. Really good ball handler, amazing passer. Jason
Correct.
Kidd, all of that sort of stuff. Is hockey like that, or does hockey have to be more of an all-around player?
Yeah, no, you're definitely onto something, Cameron. I think we call it your exceptionals. Okay, and so I tell our guys, in order to play at the highest level, keep in mind you're trying to become one of 700 people on the planet to play at that highest level, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your odds are stacked against you to begin with. But in order to have a legit shot, you got to be good, very good at
Best
pretty
in the
much
world.
everything, and you got to be exceptional at least 2 to 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd say when we talk about your exceptionals, it means that 9 times out of 10 you're going to be the best player on the ice doing that piece.
Yeah.
Every time you play and a scout watches you, they're going to bring that exceptional up. You got to have exceptionals.
Your super fast skater.
That's your standout. But everything else is at the highest level. You're a high level passer, high level this,
Exactly.
high level
You have to
vision.
compete with everyone, but then you need 1 or 2 that just push.
Yeah.
You have to have a crazy slap shot or something.
Absolutely. Even if you think about probably right now the greatest player who's playing, McDavid, all right? He's phenomenally great at almost everything, right? But if you ask, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you talk about Connor McDavid? I bet you 9 times out of 10 it'll be the same thing. Everybody will say the same thing, which is his speed.
His speed. I was going to say speed. I was actually going to say speed.
He has
quickness.
redefined
His quickness.
speed on ice.
Yeah.
Completely redefined it. That's by far his number one exceptional, right? He is redefining how defensemen play the game because of his speed.
Yeah.
Right? So even the greatest players still have exceptionals on their own, right? Whether you talk about Steve Nash or Seth Curry, right? Again, exceptional with Seth, his shooting is unbelievable. That's the first thing that comes to your mind when you talk about Seth, right?
Seth's
Oh,
his
Steph,
brother.
yeah.
Seth's his brother, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
How good is he?
He's in the NBA, so he's one of the best in the world. Yeah. When people, this is something that bugs me sometimes. When people look at professional athletes and whatever, there's like, oh, this guy sucks. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, he sucks. Yeah. Like the worst guy on one of these professional teams would come to any city and just dust everybody. Like,
Well, it's always funny. We have these conversations amongst pros because you have, especially with social media nowadays, right? You get the social media conversations, and they just roast players. Oh, he sucks. He's brutal. He's
yeah,
that.
it's like what?
Like, I could take whoever that person might be. I'm not gonna, but I could take like the worst player in the NHL, put him on any beer team in anywhere, and he'd destroy the guys.
Everybody.
Like he would just absolutely. But yet these guys
have the ability to make the opinion that he sucks. I'm like,
exactly.
I'm like, compared to you, like, I don't understand. Like, do you have the right to say that?
Yeah, no, it's so funny. Armchair athletes, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I really got into football as of late, and like the cerebral stuff. I never understood football, and I'm not going to claim I do know it now, but I really got interested in watching the Patriots play. Love them or hate them, but the what's the coach's name? Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And the relationship between Brady and that other his I don't know if he's a wide receiver, whatever position he's in. It's the Edelman.
Oh, Edelman. Okay.
Yeah, that dynamic of those three guys is so cerebral, and it's so like that's a crazy ass game.
Yeah.
But like people say, yeah, these guys suck, and I'm just like, man, they're doing like math in their head on the fly and stuff. Like just like their routes that they run is just like. If you really watch football and break it down and have someone break it down for you, Stevie, you watch it and you're like, it's totally next level.
Yeah.
So when people say one of these guys sucks, I'm like,
It's a chess game.
yeah, that's same with soccer or football. Like just the whole thing's moving like a chessboard.
Absolutely.
And it's just it's pretty wild. But yeah, going back to Steph Curry being we're talking about him being one of the best shooters. And you're talking about your exceptionals and stuff like that. So that's what you're saying. You're teaching your athletes about the exceptionals. So hockey is kind of, you have two?
Yeah, we
Two or
say
three?
you have to have a minimum of 2. 2 to 3 is what we typically say.
How many exceptionals or how many facets of hockey players are there? I can think of basketball because I understand it, dribbling, shooting, passing, rebounding, boxing out, all sorts of stuff. How many in hockey?
Well, we created an in-house for our players a rating system because I needed to find a way to help our guys understand in tangible manner how do we improve, how do we work, how do we allocate the efforts of your plan to get you to where you need to be. Mm-hmm. And the one thing about sports, I won't say just hockey, but almost in any sport, I think the one big problem to me is you talk in generalities. Coaches talk in generalities. It's cliches and generalities. That's right. You say, well, you need to be better in your own end. Well, what the heck
What
does
does
that
that even
like,
mean?
You got to be better in your own end. And so what we try to do is teach our guys to create accountability to the coaches. When you say that, let's have a conversation on
Let's
what that
define
looks
it,
like
yeah.
to you.
Can you be specific?
Right.
Can you...
We had a player just at the end of this year, and I used it. I talked with this just the other day with someone else. The feedback he got at the end, it was a big defense. We need to have better hands. Well, so I asked him. I said, so did you ask your coach, what does he mean by better hands? Like, I can come up with probably a list of 10 different things that might mean. Does it mean your hands got to be in closer? They got to be further out? You got to be quicker?
Softer,
You got to
quicker,
like,
yeah.
what does that mean? Because we might interpret it one way, which may be completely inaccurate to what the coach is looking for. And when you come back, so
you might be looking for stick handling, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually, what I meant is he needs to be more aware of his hands with his defensive,
or just quicker in his release, or when he's transitioning, his hands have got to be further out so that he has quicker ability to move and adjust his stick, or it's got to be tighter in. And so we actually went back for clarification. Said, hey, what do you this is some of the feedback you got. What are you looking for? So going back to your question, Cameron, though, I think we took it and said, well, there are a sequence of intangibles that we would rate a player on every year. We update their ratings. And so there's 5 intangibles that we have. And then there are 10 for our skaters. There would be 10 tangible things we look at: vision, speed, shot, competitiveness, consistency. Those would be some of the tangibles, right? Things that you can work on. Look on a video and you see, hey, this is what's happening. And so, look at that.
That's all good.
Just clip it back on.
So then, so we create the rating system, and then we take a look at, and we rate your intangibles separately, your tangibles separately, and then give you a combined score. And so the player goes, here's your score. So this is the first year that we've used it, and I sat down with one of our top guys, young prospects that is trying to go pro. In fact, he's on his way, left for the Toronto Maple Leafs camp today.
Nice.
And I said to him, what do you think the score needs to be for you to get an NHL contract? And he came back with a score that was very consistent with what I thought. But it left us a gap of about
How many
13
points?
points, 11 points.
Is that a lot?
No, because those last points are always the toughest to get.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'll say to our guys that I can get you to a 60 overnight. Like, I mean, just by changing a few things. I can get you from a 60 to a 70. Little effort, but I can get you to 60, 70. With a little more resources, I can get you probably from a 70 to an 80. But hey, listen, going from an 80 to a 90 or a 95, the only person that's going to get you there is you.
Yeah.
Right? We'll provide resources, but the only way that happens is by you making the decision that you want to make that happen.
That's crazy.
And so, but that's where you got to be in that 95 range out of 100 to have a chance at a pro contract.
It's so competitive. It's like, I grew up playing baseball as well. It's for baseball, for example. You have a pitcher that can throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball and another one consistently, all things being equal, and they have pretty much exact similar stats. And the guy that can throw 91 miles an hour, who are you taking?
Absolutely.
The guy 1 mile an hour more, and it's like it could be that little tweak in mechanics, or it even could be his body shape and his femur is shorter than the other guys, and he physically can't throw that far. But could be a great guy, great character, amazing, do the best family. And the guy has the exact same thing, but that 1 mile an hour is what is the difference between them signing that thing and not. And it's just it's a very competitive, probably one of the most competitive things on the planet.
Oh,
And talk to competitiveness. Okay, so you said 700. There's 700 spots in the actual league.
Yep.
How many of those spots are rotated through? So how many new spots open up every year?
Yeah.
Because like you got 700, but guys are in the league for 15, 20 years, right? So it's not
And
like
that'll
it's
vary year to year. But here, I'll tell you how to answer that question. And it's one of the greatest lines that I've ever been given in the sport. I was talking to now the new GM of the Edmonton Oilers, but when he was the GM with Detroit. And we were talking about his approach to training camp. And he said, here's how I approach training camp. I love to go up, sit in the upper deck, and I like to just watch the guys. And I'm looking for the guy who's looking to steal a job. He said, because at the end of the day, there were 700 players playing last year, and there was no vacancies, right? Like, there's no team playing with 19 guys, and I've got 2 open spots. Like,
It doesn't work like
there's
that.
not.
Everyone's
there
gunning
is
for each
zero
other.
vacancy. Like, there is no vacancy sign held.
Yeah,
Right?
it's just
Above every team.
Teams are all full, and all of a sudden the guy
So,
comes into work, and he'd be
The
like,
only way you're getting in is by stealing a job. Honestly.
I know, it's crazy, actually.
Right? And so that's his comment is that's how I identify my prospects. Is I'm looking for the guy who's prepared to steal a job from someone who had it. Right? And no truer word has ever been said, I think. It's just that's how the transition happens, right? And that takes you right back to our conversation earlier on about guys who are trying to hang on, they don't want to quit. Those guys become vulnerable to
The new guy.
the new guy.
Are there people who are quote unquote safe, or is it nobody safe?
No, there's definitely safe.
There's some few safe guys.
Oh yeah.
well, they're
like
just
a-
so far ahead that it's
like-
hard to get them
Like
out.
LeBron's safe. Like he's just kind of safe.
Like McDavid safe.
I was gonna say like LeBron, McDavid.
There's a few select few though.
Yeah,
You
there's.
know, Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, they're
But-
retiring
but
soon, but,
here-
I'm just saying.
Part of it is, and that's where the bargaining has adjusted this a little bit, but contracts and dollars play
I was gonna say that as well.
play a role in that, right? Like it's pretty hard to send a guy down to the minors who's making $7 million a year, right? Like, what do you do? So is he safe? Well, you could say yes, because there's what else you can do with a guy who's got 4 years left on his deal.
well, you
but-
sell them out, but like
Oh, you
like
still have to. They still have to pay the contract out, even if he's in the minors.
yeah.
Oh, so then that guy's sitting pretty. He doesn't have to like.
Well, yeah. So
He doesn't have the pressure of being in the league, but he can play in the minors. But he's still
So-
getting the paychecks of being in the league. I didn't know it worked like
Yeah,
that.
but you don't want to
sure.
do that either, too.
well,
because,
but I'll
like,
give you the example of that. So, and this was before the last collective bargaining agreement, where it got changed a little bit, where you could keep salary in a trade and different things happen. But good Alberta / Saskatchewan guy, Wade Retton, right? Played with Ottawa, got traded to the Rangers, had a great deal for all intents and purposes of what a great deal is. Made great money, but unfortunately, in the depth with the Rangers, became a guy who was, in the sixth pairing on their roster.
That's the bottom
on the defense, right?
Yeah.
So you're making $7 million. Well, we cannot be paying a sixth defenseman
That amount of
$7
money.
million.
Yeah.
So yeah, they sent him down to the minors, and
And he's probably
and it comes off.
The minors are just kicking everyone's ass out there because they got a nice.
But
defenseman.
that's the last NHL game he's ever played,
Yeah, I have actually heard a story on that guy.
right? Because there's no way, no one's picking him up. No, and so there's a situation where the contract became detrimental. Now you can say, was it detrimental? He made great money. He made, for the typical person, that's what are you complaining about? You're playing in the minors and making, right?
$7 million.
But your dream is to play hockey
in
right?
the NHL, yeah.
in the NHL. Like that.
Yeah.
And so you create a situation where your contract literally created a barrier for you to being able to do what you love to do.
Yeah. Well, it's another thing too. Is like you're looking at. I just hear the story of like Alexis Sanchez, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy.
Who's this guy?
So Alexis Sanchez is a Chilean soccer player, but he's playing. I can't forget which team he's playing, but he's like the highest paid soccer player right now. But he's like.
Past Messi?
Yeah, he's the highest paid soccer player right now, but he's playing like ass. Like he's like literally not doing well at all. So they're literally benching him, the highest paid player, because they're trying to trade him and they don't want to. They don't want him to get hurt. So they hold him and they just sit him on the bench. You're not allowed to play, And so he's like sitting there going, I got this huge contract, but now I can't even play. Because my contract is so big that they don't want me to get hurt.
Well,
Because they're trying to sell.
That's the smart thing. They the flip side of the coin is, do you see what happened to Kevin Durant? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Why did they play him in the playoffs? Like that's what they killed him then, didn't they?
Well, in all honesty, he was like sniping them. He went 11 for 11 or something. I don't know. He was like, they would have like if Kevin Durant was playing, they would have just handled the Raptors like, see you guys later, like just handled, right? But he played and he tore his Achilles and now he's damaged goods and he had a massive contract and now who's gonna? I don't know. He's in the Nets now. I don't know where he went.
I think he signed with the Nets.
Yeah,
he still signed a max deal, which
is weird.
It is.
Yeah, that's a.
But I mean, he doesn't play until best case scenario probably January.
Yeah, and he's not going to be himself. He's not. Once you have an injury like
Achilles, that's a tough injury, man. That's a tough injury.
I just remember I remember watching him like sitting there and he was just like holding his Achilles, looking up at the crowd, and he was just like, "Shit,
it's done."
He was like, I just lost the max deal.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Why did I play?" And he was like, I saw all the thoughts going right, and he was just like, he wasn't even in pain. He was just like, "Yeah, that's my Achilles. It's gone. How many millions did I just lose?"
And I remember when I was just playing, like in the bantam leagues, right? Bantam AAA, and I busted my knee in a summer camp.
Yeah.
And like at that moment too, I'm just looking at it and I can't move my leg. They have screws in there, and I literally have, like, it's healed, fully healed, but like you take the brace off and you're like, I can't even like extend my leg. And like you start thinking to yourself, I'm like, I'm never gonna play again. Like that's at a low level thing. Imagine at like a high level.
I think for a guy like Kevin Durant, it's not like I'm not going to be able to play again. His is more like
Just lost the max deal.
it's like he could still play, and like he even with a busted Achilles, he's still going to bust people up, but he's just not going to do it at that level. It's like when Kobe tore his Achilles. When Kobe came back, he wasn't Kobe anymore.
Yeah.
He was
those elite guys. There's something in their mindset about being the elite guy, and when that starts to, whether you look at Jordan in basketball or Kobe when he played, like when there's something about being the guy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what, when Durant was, when KD was in Oklahoma, like he's been the guy no matter where he's gone. And all of a sudden you're like, that may no longer be the case.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what he's looking at is like, I'm no longer the guy and now I'm damaged goods. I go to another team and I'm not going to be myself anymore.
Yeah.
I just watched a cool interview with Kobe Bryant. Actually, what's the guy's name? He's a really great interviewer. He interviewed one of the last living descendants of one of these Italian mob boss families, and it was like a super cool interview. And he asked like such thought-provoking questions. But he was the same guy that interviewed Kobe Bryant, and it was really cool hearing. I could listen to Kobe talk all the time because he's very cerebral too with how he thinks the game through. And how he articulates. But he was talking about, and this really clicked for me, and I don't know how I didn't pick up on this before, but they're going on about why him and Shaq didn't get along.
Yeah.
And they were also talking about that there's two different people that go into professional sports. What you're talking about is those elite guys who want to be the best and want to actually train. And then there's those guys who just like...
Who want to make money.
Yeah, they made the league and they just want to fulfill their obligations for their contracts, and then that's it. I'm partying, I'm getting all the girls,
made it,
and I'm doing
done.
this. Why am I practicing, man? I'm done. Like,
We're talking about practice.
Yeah.
Practice. Right? Like we're talking about practice.
Talk about practice? Yeah, you're talking about 3-time defensive MVP.
Like,
You're
what are we talking about here? Practice? Practice?
Yeah. You're talking about all scoring? You're talking about practice? I love that,
That
man.
was one of the best interviews around. That was.
Well, because didn't he get fined or something like that because he missed practice? That was the whole thing about, like, because
He just wouldn't show up to practice.
Yeah.
He's like, "What are the practice? Like, I'm Allen Iverson. Like, I'm the answer."
Yeah, I'm the answer.
You guys need to practice.
Yeah.
It's like you guys practice, and once you guys catch up, I'll start practicing.
Oh, it's just the different
No,
mindsets.
it is
man.
a different mindset, but it's very true. Like those, one of the things growing up, in Edmonton in the heydays, with the glory days with the Oiler teams with Gretzky, Messier, etc. I would always, as a young kid, go and watch training camp every year.
Yeah.
And one of the things that always blew me away is when they did their practice drills and stuff like that, Gretzky would always finish first. Like it wasn't that he saved it for the ice. He just operated that way. He finished first in every drill. He was the guy that pushed everybody else even in practice, right? And that's just a mindset.
It's a good mind. Yeah, it's interesting because like I had the opposite thing. Like I was always a product of my environment, which is bad. If I was in a high elite environment, like let's say there was a Gretzky there as a high elite environment, you'd step up to try to play to that level.
Yep.
But then what happens is you put me in a freaking beer league with a bunch of beer guys. I play to that level, and you're just like, son of a,
That's why a great team loses to a shitty team. Because it's always like, on paper, you're like, yeah, this team's going to kick this team's ass 11-0. And then this team wins somehow. You end up playing to their level, right? Like, a lot of sports
you just start,
teams do
this
that.
guy's super easy. So they start just playing all lackadaisy. They stop making, they're not really secure
Lazy
with
passes.
their passes. Or, like their brain's no longer in it because they're not, it's like you're just like, it's beneath me. And then you lose.
Well, and hey, there's something to be said about the old adage that sports is 90% mind and 10% everything else.
Yeah.
Right? Because it really is, right? It's how you show up mentally that defines your success. Because everybody at that level is so skilled. But if you're not prepared to compete at the highest level that you're capable of, you could end up losing any night. Right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Right? It's mindset, and that's why in sports the whole concept of sports psychology has gained so much momentum. And we're one of the only agencies that we actually have one of my partners. He's director of mental performance and leadership. That's his sole role, is to work on the mental side of the game with our athletes. That's his exclusive focus, because it's such a key component, is how you show up. How do you ensure that you don't play down to the player, the leagues that you're playing with, right?
Yeah, it's like, and it's a lot of it, like now I have a little understanding more about the psychology of things, but like at the time when you're a kid, you don't know, you're just there, and you're just feeding off the energy off everyone else.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would do. I would just feed off if there was a high energy game, it would be good. I always played the best when I usually like piss off the other team, because if I pissed off one of the other guys in the other team, I could feed off of their energy, because now all of a sudden they're gunning for me, and I could feel it that they're gunning for me. So now I have to be on high alert because you're a target. And I
Yeah.
used to always play better that way when I was a target, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm more aggressive, more sharp, more first guy in the mix, you know, because like you're actually like being aggressive with it, right? Dump and chase, go and just try to smoke some guy, and you know.
Well, that's what I often say, right? Best way to get into a game is go out and get hit or hit someone right in your first shift.
Gets the adrenaline going.
And then you know you're there.
You know what's going on. You're like, whoa, I'm in. Okay, I'm alive. Let's do this. What's
Yeah.
going on here?
So with you're talking about the mental health aspect with everything, as well as like everything else that you're doing. Do you have like a regimen as far as like a schedule with your athletes and your players that it's like every Wednesday we do this and every Tuesday it's this and every second Thursday we do that? Or is it like, what's the structure with it? Is it fairly structured, or is it like you go through sort of kind of maybe course modules or anything like that? Or
It'll be different for every athlete, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
We would, part of our process is, we will get feedback over the course of the season on our athletes. We'll talk to the scouts, we'll talk to their teams, our advisors, myself, will be out watching, we'll do game reports. So we have in-season feedback, and then in the off-season we bring all of our guys, they come into Calgary and we do a 4-day testing weekend. And we measure everything on ice, off ice, to your body composition, they do medicals, they do eye testing, you name it. It's a really in-depth weekend.
yeah.
And then based on all of that information, we formalize the next phase of their plan. So this is what player X needs to work on. This is what your off season is going to look like. If we have 18, or let's say we have 12 weeks or 16 weeks to work with, this is how so they'll train, they'll do their typical training, but their trainers will get an outline of what the key objectives are that they need to be focusing on. And for this player, it might be skating. So we've got to work
Find
on
the
some
mechanics
skating
and stuff.
techniques. Plus, we got to make sure that their trainers off ice are aware of, because a lot of your off ice or your on ice gains are achieved by off ice training, right? So we try to create that synergy. So there's not like a regimented schedule. What I would say is there is a cycle that happens during what we call the 4 seasons of performance. Your in-season phase, your postseason, your off-season, and your preseason. Every sport has it, right? And so what you try to do is you try to manage those seasons with interval type of things. So in your off-season, we're not gonna provide a regiment of this is what you need to do on a daily basis. But what we will say is that in the first X period of your off-season, so we'll take a look and a guy's off season. Some guys are going to be short if they go deep in the playoffs. Other guys they'll
Longer,
have 18 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll try to break up that 18 weeks based on how do we maximize and get them ready to peak back when they head back to camp.
So there's a science behind this.
For sure.
Yeah, it's not like
100%.
I wasn't alive back then, but I've talked to some of the guys that kind of were, and they were talking about like, yeah, in between periods we were smoking cigarettes, and, like we'd have a beer in the locker room in between second and third. Like it's not like that anymore, I don't think.
Yeah,
that's probably very frowned upon. Yeah. Maybe there's one guy in the league that it's just like he's a safe guy, just like don't mind him, he's just smoking and whatever, but he's the best goalie there is, like.
Yeah.
It's like, let him smoke. It's all good. It's what he does. Like,
what he does.
I don't know, maybe, but I don't think it's the norm anymore.
That would not be the norm. Even back in the days, the old story about Grant Fuhrer, right? I mean, his pregame was he'd go and sit and he'd have 3 or 4 hot dogs in the stands before the game, right? From the concession.
That's crazy.
Well, who was that too? As well, we had a Rolly. Was Rolly?
Yeah.
Rolly was like heavy alcoholic. Like he drank he would after the game. Just go to every beer and bar place you go and just get smashed.
Yeah, guys do all sorts of stuff, right?
Guys are just like wild. Like I couldn't being at that level. I don't think I would be able to drink at all. Yet alone, at all. Like you just
yeah.
And these guys go out and they party it up.
Well,
Young guys with money, man, they're killing it. They're like, screw it. They're
part of their culture.
Go
Yeah,
and get some beers and then go to practice the next day hungover. Oh, I couldn't imagine that, man. It'd be like a puke session.
Yeah, I know. I've hosted a bunch of those like parties, like with all the Oilers and stuff like that, and I've done a lot of. And I asked them like, "You guys got practice tomorrow?" They're like, "Yeah, 11 a.m." And I'm like, well, how are you guys up this late right now? And like, what are you guys doing? Like, you got to practice tomorrow? What type of lackadaisical practice is going to be? Like, everyone's going to be puking. Like, oh, we'll power through it. I'm like, oh man, I could not do what you're doing.
Yeah, no
Full
kidding.
power through it. At that point, why do you even go practice? Because you're not getting any benefits from the practice. You're just showing up and putting in. You're just like burning time because you have to be there.
Yeah, well, you know, it is what it is, man. I mean, they're young guys doing it. I mean, I've never been there before.
Their resiliency factor is a little higher than ours is.
I guess that's true. Maybe they don't feel it. They wake up in the morning, puke a bit, and they're good to go.
Yeah, they're good to go for the next day. Yeah, exactly.
They're just like, oh, I just need to skate this off a little bit. I'll be fine. Before we let you go, let's talk about some books. What are some of the books that you're kind of reading and things like that maybe the audience or things like that might be interested in?
Well, I'll give you two. Probably the one book that had one of the biggest impact on me was years ago. Was by David McNally. Even Eagles Need a Push.
Even Eagles?
Even Eagles Need a Push. And he sort of became synonymous for the eagle theory and the eagle philosophy of, how eagles, start in the nest and then become this powerful bird. But it was given to me way back in my very influential days by someone I respected a lot, and I read it, and I found it really powerful. And then I ended up getting a chance when I was working in the speaking industry. Got a chance to meet David McNally and became good friends with him, and just a really good guy, and I could sort of get the philosophy behind it. So that would be one. The other I just got, and I'm looking forward to reading it. It's Brian Tracy's new book, Dare to Win. Just came out, and so literally I just got it in the mail last week, so I basically just cracked the spine, but I'm really looking forward to getting into that one. And Brian's such a he would be one of the the Connor McDavids of
personal
books,
development.
Personal development, right?
Quick question before we do let you go. You said you're in the speaking industry.
Yeah.
Can we elaborate that? Maybe 5 minutes? 'Cause
Absolutely.
I find that really interesting. Is this like a Tony Robbins speaking industry, or what
Yeah.
what capacity were you in? Were you a speaker yourself? Were you managing speakers?
Yeah, no, I did a little speaking, but that wasn't my forte. I did the odd little bit, but my job was helping build the brand and build the platform message of professional speakers. So I would take a fairly established keynote speaker, author, someone who's charging in that $5,000 to $10,000 range, and our goal would be, same way we work with an athlete now, is take that speaker and how do we define your brand as a speaker? How do we define your message? How do we build that into going from $5,000 to $15,000 or $20,000 speaker keynote, or building that beyond? So that was my role. I worked with probably about 80% of my clients were out of the U.S.
How the heck do you get in that?
Yeah, it hard to say actually. It just sort of I got a couple of individuals that were referred to me based on my marketing and branding background, and that just honestly it sort of took off.
And you just ran with it. You're like, you know what? I think I can do this.
It was sort of a niche that we carved out, and then that's really how I got connected with so many of the athletes, right? Because we took a lot of the athletes. You look at a guy like Ryan Walter, who after he retired, Ryan did some broadcasting, did some coaching, but went into personal development and leadership development now, and got his master's, and is now authored many books. And so we worked with him on, okay, what is your brand, and how do we create a visual brand, and how do we create a business out of this by leveraging your window of opportunity that you had, because the marketplace knew you as Ryan Walter. How do we extend that window and open it into a new industry? And so that was then where we introduced, he was one of the most diligent guys I knew about writing books, and then when he got his master's degree, and so that's where I focused. And so we took some of those athletes and moved him into the speaking industry.
Mm.
Another good example of that was the last of the Crazy Canucks, Kerry Mullen. Worked with him for a number of years, and he was dynamic, just an unbelievable speaker, and still is, unbelievable speaker. Wayne Lee Diddick, another dynamic speaker. I started working with Wayne when Wayne was, doing his entertainments in the bars, and now is one of the most sought after corporate keynote speakers.
Wayne Lee hypnosis guy?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. Wayne Lee, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He was an athlete?
Well, his background actually, he was a national wrestler, but he got what I saw is some of the stuff that he did on the platform, and I'm like, this has massive potential to translate if you translate into the keynote market. And so we worked with him for years, and still, we became really good friends now. And so
That's really cool.
Yeah, he's interesting with that whole power of suggestion thing. Like almost like that's like one of those little what do you call it? Those little pieces of knowledge that if you know it, you can be very.
Yeah, you don't look that guy in the eyes. You don't look him directly in the eyes.
Yeah, it's just suggestions to you, and I'm just like, yo, man.
We've had him out just because of he's such a good guy. We've had him out to a number of our summer agency weekends, right? With when we have all of our guys together, and have him because he has a really unique way of having a fun, or creating a fun environment through the hypnosis, but then delivering an incredibly powerful message around what is the power of the mind and how do you utilize your mind to create change in your life, or get the results that you want. And so the impact it's had on our athletes, it's been phenomenal.
That's cool.
So that's been part of what I did, sort of morphed. So I still do a little bit of that on the side with the
Some
odd
of the longer term athletes that kind of come
Yeah.
out, and you kind of push them into that.
Yeah,
that realm
and that would
after.
be sort of, that, if you call it cradle to grave theory that we have,
Retirement.
but working with athletes on a pre-career basis, during career, and post-career. So, what do we have that we can support them with if they wanted to get into something like public speaking or motivational speaking, inspirational speaking? Because a lot of athletes have great stories, great messages, right? And stories are emotional triggers that help people create change.
That's the marketing. Yeah, tell stories.
Yeah.
That's the biggest. People relate to it, create that emotional response, and people
Absolutely.
have a change.
I remember with Kerry, we spent hours on the platform just fine-tuning his stories, fine-tuning his message, with nobody around. Like I'd take him out to our church, and we'd close the doors, and we'd just go through his keynote, and we'd tape it from different angles, and we'd stop it, look at it. Okay, how do we refine, change it, and then how do we move on the platform a little differently? Because again, just like on the arena or on the ice, the way you navigate your presentation as a speaker creates and triggers the change, the emotional reaction in your audience.
It's the same thing the way comedians work too. Like
Absolutely.
the exact same thing. They have to set it up, properly. If they don't set it up properly, the joke falls
The
flat.
delivery
on its face.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If the setup's not there, the delivery doesn't matter.
Yeah,
So,
it falls flat on its face and stuff like that.
so
Have you ever
yeah.
read the book Relentless?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That one was and then Legacy. Have you ever read Legacy?
I have not read Legacy.
I'll give you Legacy. Legacy is a good one too. It's about the All Blacks. I don't know if you've ever heard about the
Okay.
All Blacks.
Yeah, I did. I've
Yeah.
heard definitely that.
Yeah, so that's it's like how it's all about how is it you become a winner year after year
After year, yeah.
Those guys are psychopaths, man.
No
It's
kidding.
like fast, yeah.
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 Those guys are like 3 times the size of all of us combined.
Exactly. And now we're just talking their thigh.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Their fucking legs are like, yeah, it's like a dump truck. Those are a different. Well, what happened? I think the actual science behind it was when they were shipping over on the boats.
Yeah.
Like literally, like all the weak ones died. Like legit, like not shipping, but they shipped themselves. Like
Yeah.
they went from one island to another, or whatever the geographical thing is. But like literally, only the strongest of that species survived, or the strongest of that genome, or I guess race. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But the Samoa people, like the strongest of those guys, and the females too.
Well, because they're
Wow.
physically bringing themselves over, eh?
Yeah, and the
physically-
weak ones literally was
They
just like
couldn't handle and
Yeah.
so then the strong ones that made it over, they bred with each other, and
yeah, kind of like the Vikings are same thing. The Vikings like those Nordic people. They're like the Half-Thor guy. You know Half-Thor? The mountain from Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy, like those like Scandinavian dudes, like the Vikings, like who had like the
have to live up in the cold winter mountains.
yeah, the ones who were like raping and pillaging and stuff. Yeah, those ones were on the ships, like just and the
Yeah,
weak
those
ones
ones.
died. You know, the weak ones just died off. They're just like
they just get teased and pushed off the boat and be
yeah,
like,
just like
get
get out of here. Like, you're fine, right? You dweeb, right? Yeah, I think that's a great way to end the episode on raping and pillaging, right?
Yeah, wow.
Wow, it went full circle.
I'll give you one more.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, but it's been referred to me like 4 times in the last 2 weeks, so I have to mention it. It's called, I think it's The Captains or The Captain or Captains, and it just, it's almost like, from what I understand, like a biography of some of the top leaders in all industries, and it talks about what makes them captains, what makes, like, how do you become a captain? And
That sounds like cool. That'll be similar to like Good to Great,
yes,
where like there's that
Yeah.
transition between what makes a company good
and great, absolutely.
Yeah.
Captains.
So captain.
I'm
So
gonna look into that.
it you want to look at that? It's been referred to. So I was just going to pick it up here this week still, because I'm really looking forward to getting into that one because that seems to be a really it's a fairly new book as well. So
Do you know the author? Or just I could just Google Captain Book. Well,
Yeah.
Captain Book.
Yeah, Captain Book. Yeah, but hey, can you just give the audience here kind of where they can find you at? Maybe a LinkedIn profile or your website or
Yeah.
anything like that, and just say your name for them, and then we'll wrap it up.
absolutely. So yeah, you can find us on our website, which is linkmgmt.co. So link and then management.co. And that's probably the most detailed components. You can find us on Facebook at linkmgmt or on Twitter at link_mgmt. But happy to provide resources and have a conversation if anyone is interested, for
Just
sure.
ask questions and figure out how to,
Yeah.
if they're looking for agents or, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that was
It's,
awesome.
it's a neat journey to navigate, so it's fun.
Yeah, that was
Well,
interesting.
It was awesome having you on the show. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you guys. It's
Man,
been,
that was
it's
great.
been
That
awesome.
was cool. That was really cool,
Yeah.
actually.
Very, very, very cool. All right, guys. That's an episode.
That was an episode. That's an episode.
TXCShow.com. Make sure you check us out. This is my boy, Cameron Barkey.
Hey, Cameron Barkey here.
And we'll see you next Thursday.
Next Thursday, we got Steve Van Diest, Manny Schmidt.
Thank
All right.
you.
Hey, take care, guys.
Take care. Peace
See ya.
out.
Bye.